Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Michael Tellerino, CEO and founder of K9 for Veterans. I'm here with Shay Salins, I'm sorry. And of course, my wonderful host, Jillian Jans.
Howdy there.
We're here tonight. First of all, tonight's broadcast, I want to take a moment of silence. And we have a veteran that we'd like to acknowledge, Corporal Alex James Abba. So if you wouldn't mind, just a moment of silence, please. I met Alex's family at our memorial that we had for Veterans Day last Saturday. And I just wanted to extend my sympathy to the family for their loss. Your son was a true hero in every sense of the word, and we were honored to have you there at the memorial. So thank you.
Semper Fi.
So tonight we're here with Shay. We're going to talk about PTSD and
The difficult parts that we don't necessarily always like to talk about, which is the suicide and the impact and
Right.
stigma around it, perhaps.
Shay, why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about yourself, first of all?
I'm 47 years old. I am a Navy veteran that served in Desert Storm and came home from Desert Storm and thought I was normal. Had my son, held him. That's when everything came back. The feeling of the sand, the smell. But I had to hide it because I was the father. I'm the one that carries the load of a family. Then what I end up doing is, with the PTSD, pushing my family away. My children end up getting divorced, not seeing my kids for 13, 14 years because of my PTSD, which led to drugs, alcohol, prison. Just life got hard, and I didn't know my path, where I belonged in life.
Shay, when did you realize, when did you realize that you had PTSD or that you were having issues with everyday life?
Probably when I had my second son, I realized I was close to my first son, but I couldn't let myself be.
You couldn't let your guard down.
Yeah, I was always afraid that someone's going to take him away, take my children away from me.
What were your first signs that you knew you were?
Isolation.
I'm sorry, at what point was it in your awareness that it was PTSD and not just something? Do you know what I mean? Like,
That would have been in 2017 when I finally went to Hines Hospital and got help.
so up until then you had just been experiencing the symptoms, and it was just kind of
Manifested over time?
Yeah, over time. I never think I would have it. I thought I was.
they were to you unrelated, but at the same time, as a whole, looking back, it's
Now I look
simple
at it,
to see, but right, hindsight's 2020.
Right. Back then, I thought it was just the stress of being a father and trying to build a family and still deal with the stuff that's going on in my head. So I thought as a person and as a father, that's what every father goes, because they're always stressed, always being on guard, being there for their children.
I can share that in a different but similar way, like with women in childbirth, like postpartum, that kind of stuff. Like we assume that all of the other women are experiencing it, and instead it's not. It's something greater and deeper than that. And unfortunately, if you don't get the help or the community that you need at the time, which unfortunately it seems like you didn't, then you're just kind of left out to dry. And with the stigma that has been associated with PTSD, I'm sure you were hoping that it was anything but that.
What honestly, I wanted to believe that I was just stressed out so much. I didn't want to think I had something wrong. I don't think like they said Saturday, a mental thing. It's something that can be fixed. And in the last 2 years of counseling that I've gone through between Heinz v. Hospital, I'm and I started another program at Rush Hospital, the Road Hold program. Within those two programs, within the last 2 years, I've learned so much about myself. And my goal now in life is to bring everything from because of my whole life crumbled. My family, my job, my friendships.
So you lost everything.
Yeah, I have nothing. So my life, I'm trying to find out who I am, my purpose in life, and with the PTSD, I didn't care what my purpose was. I didn't care. I just wanted to hide. I wanted to. You're
able to see that there's a way to involve to pretty much shape your life with the PTSD and that knowledge and the path
I wouldn't
forward?
say shape my life. I think I'm learning to accept that my PTSD is going to be like my alcoholism and my drug addiction. I'm always going to be never will be a recovering addict. I will never be a recovering addict. I'm always going to be an alcoholic. I'm always going to be an addict. Every day I'm going to have to deal with my PTSD through these programs, through K9s, Rush, and Heinz, the programs at Heinz. I've learned there's so many different programs, different things that I can reach out and look into myself and lead by example to show other vets that once you open yourself, we're not alone. We have to open up. We have to depend on a team.
You have to ask for help.
You have to depend on a team. And there's teams out there that really do care. And the biggest thing, the hardest part for me was admitting that there was something wrong.
Right, and asking for help.
You know
I
what?
think that's a lot to do with a lot of veterans is
Absolutely.
acknowledging that they have PTSD and that they do need the help.
I heard this the other day. I thought it was kind of nifty. If we replace the I with the we, illness becomes wellness.
Yes.
And I thought that was a nice way of phrasing it. And I'm speaking as a spouse end of it. I know I was just with a spouse group today at the vet center in Orland, and countless of the wives were saying they want to be there for their husband. They want to hear what he needs. They want to know the stories if he wants it. But they don't know how to approach the subject. They feel like they're going to upset them, and they don't want to do that. They're walking on eggshells, not realizing that it's the only way to get to the other side of it is to just break a bunch of eggs.
Let me ask a question. With your spouse or your significant other, is it easy to talk to them? Does it help you to open up to people? Or is it still something you feel you need to keep
right now?
To yourself?
I'm on the fence right now. This is me being on the fence, talking about my PTSD, talking about my suicide attempt, talking how messed up I made my life because I was running from my PTSD
and not getting help.
Right. Trying to be the soldier that I thought I was supposed to be. The one that never asked for help, did it, came home and survived at all cost. And the cost it cost me is my life, everything.
You did what you were trained to do, though. I mean, like, you pushed it down and you soldiered on. Like that's.
And the way I put it, I became a monster. And when I say monster, I don't mean it in the horror. Because in the military, we're learned to not to have emotion. We're learned to a monster. It does whatever it has to do to survive. And that's, to me, that's what I say I became a monster. That's what I mean. I became emotionless. I don't regret what I've done because I did what I had to do and to save lives and had to do to come home. If I would have to do it again, yeah, I'll do it again. No hesitations. And, I made the choice. I made the choice to enlist. I made the choice to go overseas.
What would you say? You have a veteran comes home, he's struggling, doesn't quite understand whether or not he's dealing with PTSD or just some anxiety issues, the frustration of coming home and settling back into a normal civilian life. I mean, is it hard to make that adjustment when you come home?
It's very hard because when you come home, we're taught to survive. We're taught to trust the man next to you, no matter what. because you're out there, everything depends on that person next to you. So when you come home and you go back to your old neighborhood, and you remember, and you start seeing your old life where you couldn't trust people, then you start isolating yourself because you can't trust anybody. Because you're so messed up in the head where everything going on, you can't trust.
You're so highly
We had a
trained.
conversation prior to coming on the show, and I asked you if you had ever attempted suicide,
I've attempted twice.
and you've done it twice. What could possibly push you to that point?
What led you to try to?
I lost, at that time, I was engaged, I had a house, I had a good job. With the PTSD, I couldn't go to work regularly, so she left, and everything just fell apart, and I couldn't.
You did everything you could to get back on track and build it up. And then
build
it
my
was-
life, and the PTSD going and counseling. You go at Heinz, you go to 2 to 3 days a week. And no one wants to hire you, no one, because you got to leave work early. You got to come in
Because of your treatment.
Yes, and I'm not saying it's an excuse.
No,
but
it's not,
It,
but
it
it's-
is what it is. You know, it's
It's a sad thing that isn't accounted for when people are looking into like working with veterans and working with, like, it's something that has to be able to be addressed because you guys deserve the treatment that you need when you get home. And if we can get a medical system that is able to provide it, and we can get a
Let me know when you find that.
right? Tell me about it.
Yeah.
But if we can get a veteran who's willing to seek that treatment, and then a company or companies that are willing to provide an accessible and a flexible work environment that understands that in the long run, you're talking about a lifetime employee that is going to be dedicated, that is going to be one of the best employees you'll ever have. Just for a stint in time, they need to take care of themselves, and
Right.
they've
That
earned
should
it.
be a priority.
Absolutely.
When we were at the memorial last Saturday, and
Yeah.
those mothers and fathers and loved ones of the veterans that we lost, I guess the nagging question that I have still today is why? I mean, you know what? If you know what a problem is, you could fix it. We know what the problem is, and it seems like we're not doing anything to fix it. And I think we need a conversation to get started with what more could we do for our veterans that we're not doing. You know, you could acknowledge a veteran for his service and thank him for his service and, you know, shake his hand and stuff like that.
One of the best books I ever read was Downrange to Iraq and Back. I was given it by a VFW commander early on. It was one of the most influential books because it was talking about how to involve the civilian populace into the discussion
sad.
of what happened with you guys in your deployment and what the actual burden that you feel that you bear when you come home is, and the things that you saw and did and had to grapple with. It's part our job to sit and listen and hear those stories in a way that is comfortable and safe for you to tell them, but also a way for you to then share that weight and that burden, because it's not meant for you to carry it alone.
What's easier when you're meeting someone and you're talking about being in the service? What's an easy conversation for you to have with somebody about your PTSD, or is there an easy conversation?
For a long time, I admit I said I served, but I never. That's as far as it would go. No one knew what branch I did. No one. But now it's to a point where now
Does the dog kind of access a little bit easier for, like, I mean,
he's made it easier since I've got him. Since I've got him in July, my life has changed dramatically.
What does he do?
Energy-wise.
How does he change their life?
When I lost my job recently, when I would have climbed right into bed and
not gone out of bed for days?
Yeah. With him, I got out of bed and
You don't really have much of a choice. You gotta walk them, you gotta feed them.
and every day, and there's days, even today, it's hard for me some days, but
It doesn't
with
feel like
him,
a chore with them.
him, it's like he's the part of my life that was missing.
He depends on you in a way that it's
And you depend on him.
absolutely, because you have that person that person
I
that's
see
gonna
it
keep you
more
safe,
as
that
he is part that I've been missing, something that will love me unconditionally, no matter how
Absolutely.
fucked up I am, or
It's
he's there.
it's that camaraderie that you had with your other
Yeah.
service members that you now have with that my husband had the same thing with his service dog. Like he would actually sleep through the night then because he felt safe enough to relax and sleep because she was there and she was guarding in her way. And it was because he would take her out places that people would then say, "Oh, what's your service dog for?" And then he would say, "Oh, well, I got," like, and he would tell his story. And the more that people asked, the more he told his story. The more people asked, the more he told his story. And eventually the story wasn't a weight and a heavy feeling anymore in the way that it began. It was a piece of who he was, but it wasn't a defining factor in who he was.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful synchronization of all of the things when it came to the service dog and the therapy and everything. Because when he got home, I called him a robot. That was I'm not proud of that. He came home from a doctor appointment one time and he's like, "The doctor says that you're not supposed to call me a robot." I'm like, "All right, well."
He doesn't know John.
Right? Well, it's hard to, like, he was just very much happy, extremely happy, or just angry, or like shut off. Like that was the only two things that he had. And years and years and years of therapy later, it's a little bit more of a spectrum. But at the same time, I can relate to what you're saying about, like, you didn't feel like you had, like, that.
Well, here, when a veteran walks into, with PTSD, walks into a building, he's going to look for the furthest point, closest to the door.
He's going to look for the nearest exit evacuation. yeah.
Exactly, okay? When one of our guys walk in with a service dog, they don't feel like the whole world is looking at them. Now the attention
Focuses
is
on
all
the dog.
focused on the dog, which makes it a whole lot easier for
And
them.
you know what the dog's doing a lot of time?
Yeah,
Looking for that
looking
same
back.
exit.
Exactly. And people are going to inadvertently come up to you and say, "Hey, what's your dog's name? How old's your
It's a
dog?"
conversation
Now
starter.
you're forced to have a conversation
Yes.
with people that typically you would avoid at all costs.
Yeah.
And what's even more for me, like, astounding is that the way that the dog fits into things, as in, like, it'll give you a personal space in between you and people,
Yes.
which makes you
Right.
more comfortable to have those
And if you get
conversations.
too close, they're trained to nudge them away.
Exactly, and it's something that is so profound that I'm glad that was able to be figured out, in a relatively.
Shay, what would you say to a veteran coming home who's feeling all those emotions, all those, and dealing with all those issues and anxiety? I mean, isn't it much better? Wouldn't you just say, "Hey, if you're questioning where you're at, now's the time to go for help"?
I wouldn't say questioning where you're at. For me personally, I would say when you, as a veteran, you question, because when I enlisted, me serving my country was my purpose. That was
Right.
my purpose.
driving
I think
force.
when we come home and we're discharged, I felt I didn't know what my purpose was.
Right.
That
And
order is gone.
order, purpose, camaraderie, brotherhood, that's all gone.
Well, we all had a battle buddy.
Right.
That dog will become your battle buddy.
He is my
now.
battle buddy.
Exactly.
And
He's always going to be there for you.
I would tell anybody that's coming home, don't be ashamed to say you're messed up in the head. Cause you're really not messed up in the head. You're dealing with a lot of shit that no one but us veterans will understand. Don't be ashamed to say, "Hey, I need help," because when you're in there, when you're in the trenches, when you got those shells going off, you got the 16s going, you know that man next to you has got your back. So you gotta find that one vet, even if it's just,
Somebody to talk to.
yeah, just reach out.
No.
Even if just go to a VA or American Legion or a VFW hall, anywhere there's veterans, just reach out. Another vet like myself that's going through these, we know the signs, we know the looks. If I saw you in a bar or anywhere where other veterans are, I see that look, I'm gonna walk up to you and ask you, "Are you okay?" If someone walks up to you and they introduce as a vet and they're asking you if you're okay, they understand exactly what you are going through at that moment. So don't shut them out. they're reaching because they understand, they feel that pain, and they're walking that pain every day like I do.
Jill, you've been married to John, who's had
It'll be
PTSD.
10 years this year.
Yeah, and I mean, John has been through highs and lows.
All the different flavors of it.
You've been through highs and lows, but yet you stuck it out with him. You were there, and I gotta commend you on it, through thick and thin. When times you probably thought, what am I doing here? But that's, I think, what it takes.
I have a, in my head, way of like thinking of things, and that's that I'm choosing to stay, which is important for me to make that acknowledgement, because otherwise I'll feel trapped and I'll feel just like it's something that I'm forced to do, and I'm not. I love him with all of my heart, and I choose to do that every day. In the same sense, he chooses to make the effort and the conscious decisions to better himself and get the help that he needs, and take my caregiving advice, to take the initiative to, start his nonprofit, to be
Right.
the man and husband and father that I know that he can be, and that he knows that he has inside of him every day. With that being said, it's hard as hell. Like it's a daily struggle, and I don't do it well most days. Neither one of us do. And if we get one good day a month, like I'm woo.
Shay, I recently met the young lady that you're seeing now,
Karen.
and you two seem to be like just a perfect couple. I mean, you guys seem to get along well. She seems to understand you, what you're going through.
Can you give some advice to the significant others or spouses out there that have a veteran in crisis in the way that you know personally, as to what to do or how to approach a situation, how to reach them, anything?
What's the best way for a spouse, loved one, or anyone to come up to you and approach you and ask you, can we talk?
Or we're worried about you, or
Yeah.
For me, and with Karen, and she's tried, she has, and I.
or is it to find a vet? Like that's something I've done over time.
You can find another vet, or with her. I'm comfortable talking to her. She's the first one I've really trusted to talk to. But as a spouse, to talk to a vet that has PTSD, sometimes just walking, just to say, I'm here. And for me, with her, just to hear that, sometimes that's the opening for me to let it out.
That's what I kind of like encouraged the spouses today to do, was that just to say, what was it like? Because one of them had, talked about, she'd asked a question and he kind of shut her down, like a basic question, like what branch, whatever. But I told her that it's not so much about that as it is knowing that you have that ear and that willingness to listen to what you need to say. It doesn't necessarily have to be then, and most likely it probably won't be.
Right.
But
Right.
the fact is that it's there and an option and a support if it's needed. And I think that a lot of vets that I know, at least personally, and the spouses that aren't necessarily doing as well, that's what they need to be. I encourage the wives to do that in a sense of, so that the guys know that they're willing to hear those stories and listen and be a part of what they are going through.
What would you say to a veteran, and again, ask them, what would you say to them coming home with issues? What would you say to them? What's the best advice you can give someone that discharged, coming home, PTSD issues? What's the best advice you can give them?
What I would say, tell a vet that you're not alone. Reach out. There's organizations besides Heinz Hospital that reach out and discuss.
Rush University.
Any one of our Facebook pages, reach out to us on one of those.
I have my own page. I started a Veterans Motorcycle Club. The purpose of it was to be a voice for us veterans and not being heard.
And we have K9s, we have Cheers, there's VFWs, there's auxiliaries, there's
Well, I just got
so
that
many
nasty
options.
1-minute warning.
Oh, don't tell me what to do.
So with that, I want to thank, of course, Jillian Jans, my hostess with the mostess.
A shout out to the Marine Corps
And
out there. Happy birthday.
again, Shay, I want to thank you for coming. And also, again, I want to extend my sympathy to the Alba family.
And happy Veterans Day.
For their loss. And just again, anything we could do to help any of our veterans out there suffering with PTSD, don't be afraid to ask them
It's
what
never
they
too
need,
late.
if you can help them. In the same respect, our veterans, they need to reach out to us as well. It's a two-way street,
Yes.
so
Hopefully this reaches somebody who needs it.
thank you for being with us tonight, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.